Hi, everyone. This is Lynn Davenport and Mary Lowe, and we're with Families Engaged, and this is our weekly update. We're going to start doing these every week as we are in the 88th legislative session, and we're following the things that are happening with education at the local and the state level. And so we want to just start with a couple of things because we are in crunch time right now because the session is about to start. There's a number of people going on a bus on Thursday to Austin relating to the Democrat chairs being appointed by Republicans. So the Republicans, as part of the party platform, they are asking that we not do Democrat chairs. Since the Democrats don't appoint Republicans, why would Republicans appoint Democrats? You want to talk about that, Mary?
Well, I think that we've seen very clearly from the communication, we've asked everybody to email their representatives and say no Democrat chairs. And we've gotten some messages back saying that that's not going to work, that is not going to go through. And some people have proposed some alternatives and said that they would put forth an alternate rule that says that if there's a Democrat chair and the Democrat chair's not letting a bill get through committee to the floor to be voted on, that if the rest of the committee votes that it goes through and goes to the floor, that it has to go through and go to the floor and get voted on. And the problem with that,
change how they stack up the committee. I mean, if that goes through, then the speaker will just change how he loads up the committee so that it's loaded up with rhinos who will vote not to let
things that aren't what they want through. So that really doesn't solve anything. But it does virtue signal to us where they are. And that is much like what we saw out of Washington, D.C., is that we really don't have that many Republicans in office, that we really are, that the uniparty is real and it's alive. And it tells us that from an education standpoint, we have a full out battle ahead of us and that we are going to have to really, really, really fight and be present and push, or we're not going to get anything. And some of the bills that I've seen go through eliminate and remove local power. Van Dever, who is a possibility for a Republican to be chair of House Education Committee, has put through a bill that is horrible. And it basically takes the power for the SHAC, the School Health Advisory Committee, which we were putting more and more authority through that. He's taken it back and is centralizing it. So you can see that the behind closed door conversation is definitely a huge move to centralization of education and taking everything even more further away from local.
That bill is House Bill number 1238, Gary Van Dever. Okay. And let's talk about some of the other elected officials who are influencing education. I know I've been talking with some of the state board members, as have you, Mary. So what are you hearing out there in the world?
Well, I'm super excited. You know, the state board is something that I've invested a whole lot of time in developing relationships with, and it's not always an easy relationship. It's often rocky. We don't always see eye to eye, but they are willing to listen, and they truly are the last elected branch that has had an open mind and open ear and has been available to listen to us,
not
to
all of them, but yes,
the stakeholders. Well, yeah, not all of them, but more of them than any other elected body. And I'm super excited about LJ Francis, who has been elected, and I'm looking forward to seeing him hold the line on a conservative position. I think he's going to be good for us. And I would say the same is true of Evelyn Brooks. Evelyn kind of came out of the gate a little wobbly and not so sure, but she had a lot of pressure on her and a lot of focus on her because she's in a very conservative, heavily populated area that's got a lot of problems right now. So I think she's going to be good for us. I think
she's been solid. I mean, when I talk to her, she knows all the nuances about school choice. She knows the details on what the TEKS and the standards are. She knows the threat of the technology. She understands what a classical education model is. So that is, that's a great start as far as I'm concerned. And I know you agree.
Yeah, and I have to say she's a solid believer, and I don't think that I think she's lived her life in such a way that that's what her barometer for right and wrong is, and she's not going to be enticed by the golden carrot that gets dangled before all of our elected bodies. I'm super worried about Julie Pickering. Early on at
What area?
CPAC,
Sorry to interrupt.
she took over, I can't remember the seat number, but she took over, I want to say it's 5 or 6, but she took over Matt Robinson's seat. And Matt, that was a conservative area, but Matt was not always very conservative, and they redistricted that, and his home was literally districted out. So she had an open pathway. She's in the same general area of Galveston, Clear Lake, League City, that whole area.
Concerns about
butts up against, huh?
What are the concerns about Julie? I know I have some. I want to hear what yours are.
Well, she started off gaslighting at CPAC, and she started off aligning herself with the Texas Education Agency and inserting authority and relationship with Governor Abbott. And I'm glad that we have a Republican governor, but Abbott's not. He's a globalist, and he is for the UNESCO model of education, and that's what they're pushing. And when she's getting cozy with him, that's a concern. That she is going to be more interested in doing his work than the people's work, or even best interest of the children. And then, honestly, the biggest, latest red flag is the Hope Rising social emotional learning curriculum that she has attached herself to. And even after she's been elected, she has used her position to promote.
Got sworn in. Has she been sworn in yet?
She should have been. Everyone had to be sworn in by the 31st or 1st. So even though I haven't seen her advertise that she was sworn in, they've all been sworn in. And then there will be a swearing in at the end of the month. I think it's the 28th. It's a Tuesday, so I think that's the 28th. I'd have to turn and look at my calendar.
In Austin, the rest
they're going to be sworn. Yes.
Well, and the reason why I asked that is because they cannot legally be pushing or promoting a certain vendor or contract or company as a state board member. So it's a really risky situation if she's going to be pushing a particular product, pushing it to legislators, as you and I have talked to directly to legislators who she has gone to, pushing this Hope Rising and calling it the good SEL. And we would argue there is no good SEL. There is, teachers can address
it's digital
skills, I mean, social emotional learning from an organic perspective, but we don't endorse anything that is digital and pedagogies that are tapping into the affective domain and the non-cognitive and behavioral skills of children. We don't support that. And that's what this Hope Rising is being pushed as the good SEL. So we are leery of that, very concerned about that. And I've done some research on who's behind it. And it's just another way for these companies to feed at the trough. So
it's super concerning, and I know that we are going to be having a Zoom meeting, I believe, here scheduled pretty soon to visit with her personally about some of these things. And I hope that she understands what our concerns are, and that we can see a strong position that she understands and respects that. There cannot be any SEL in our schools, and for that matter, Lynn, really, she has to understand that any digital curriculum, that there's nobody minding the digital curriculum. It just does not matter. It's more of the same. It's kind of like, we'll talk our next time we get together and chat, we'll talk about the Commissioner of Education, because we have been working on that as well. But there's no supervision, there's no oversight in Texas Education Agency, and that's the exact same that you see on all of the digital curriculum. The instruction material that's online is not there's no way for parents to really have a good vision of what's happening there, or it's changed. I mean, I'm hearing that Goodhart Wilcox, even though we got all these changes made, that one school has the Goodhart Wilcox that was not modified. So, I mean, is it already perverted? I mean, they say one thing and do another, and we have to stop that. So we do have to focus on technology.
Okay. And then, so you and I were another state board member. We were on a call with Pat Hardy, who's on the state board, and Senator Kelly Hancock, he's been on wasn't he on the education committee in the past? But
I don't think he's ever served in an education committee as a senator. He served on school board.
Interim one about mental health, and that's what I saw him on when we went to speak against mental health bills. But okay, so he gets on this call. We also have other staffers from whose office was on there. We had
Drew Springers and Phil King, because the reason was they're all senators in part of their schools and part of their area all touch Pat Hardy's,
which is district. Mm-hmm. Primarily
well, it's more than that. It's Johnson County, Parker County. It's huge. I mean, our SBOE members, they account to an enormous amount.
Yes, the whole reason for the call was Fort Worth ISD, and we had Missy Cara on there to talk about the potential charterization of the school district.
Well, and to be fair, Pat was originally initiating the phone call because right before Christmas, when we tried to take off for a while, Pat and I were both getting a barrage of phone calls from parents in charter schools where basically they were violating SB3 in a horrific way. I mean, lessons for it says no CRT, no political conversation, that if you're going to talk about a political organization or an action, that you have to present both sides of it. Mm-hmm. And the one that we found most egregious was a lesson for a 5-year-old about Ferguson. And the child came home and said to her parents, why do cops kill Black people? And in that particular case, the police were exonerated, and that was not the case. The guy was not innocent. So there was a big trial, and that was all cleared. But that was kind of the beginning of it. But again, regardless of what your position is on what happened in Ferguson, the issue is 5-year-old children do not need to be spending their time talking about topics of that weight, of that kind of emotional weight, or that depth of a concept. They are still should be playing with creative play and that sort of thing, and learning how to sit down. And so that is a burden for children that age, for sure. So it's inappropriate, and this is happening in our charter schools. So and then we have other things.
Right? I mean, on the call, I didn't see him acknowledge that.
No, he said, oh, they have a choice. They can take him out. He's like, oh, they have a choice. They got to choose to go there. They can choose to take their child out. And didn't even acknowledge that was, he did say, we have the notes from the meeting, and we also have the meeting recorded, but he also said that, oh, well, Senate Bill 3, it was always pretty vague anyway. And my question is, really, so when we're fighting to protect the patriotism of America, and we're fighting to make sure that the curriculum in our government education doesn't undermine the sovereignty and the ideology that America is first, why would you write a bill that is that he said was vague? And he voted for it, so why would he have not amended that? If he knew it was vague, why wouldn't he amend it? I'm sick and tired of our elected officials being lazy. And that's what it really comes down to. Lazy, or else they're worried more about whether or not they can get reelected. And so they sit on the fence. And it's time to get off the fence. You're either pro-America and you're going to protect the children at all costs, or you're not. You don't get to sit on the fence and straddle over these issues. So I was horrifically offended.
He also straddles his support for, so he says he supports public schools, said that he put his children in both private and public, went back to public, gave a different reason for why he was back in public. And then what was also supporting charter schools and school choice. So that was another bone of contention, is he was not listening to all of the issues that we are trying to help. What we tried to tell them is there's no teeth in some of the laws, and even these empty platitudes like this anti-CRT bill. There's no teeth in it. If this stuff is coming in through digital technology, that's a problem. How do we enforce that when there's not? Okay, and then moving on to the
other thing is, he said that there could be a rogue teacher, and I thought that was really. I don't think there's any. Very few rogue teachers. These teachers are being told what they need to be doing, and when the parent investigated that curriculum was provided for the teacher, and it came from the charter school, which is a nationally based charter school. So it's not even operated out of the state of Texas. It's operated, out of, and it's IDEA. So where is IDEA out of? And the point was, you guys are saying that charter schools are the answer to the problems that we have in government ed, and it's not. The charter schools are exactly the same as government ed.
Yeah, and we tried
90%.
They have the same standards. They have the same STAR test. They have the same woke or not woke teachers, but their teachers are mostly uncertified. And it's not really innovative if they're having to do the exact same things as the school districts are. It's a myth, and they're basically business deals, and they're a means of privatizing. But they use public money and private money together. It's a public-private partnership, and we're not in favor of those. Okay, so let's go on to just real quick. We will be talking next week about Marath, and we still don't have a date for the Commissioner of Education's confirmation hearing. And so we are vehemently opposed to that. We know that he will be confirmed, because to get critical mass of senators to not approve him is, it's nearly impossible. We can't get them to publicly do that. So we are going to make him radioactive by displaying and presenting what he has done. And so he will have to answer in one way or another to the parents, and we're going to try to show up to that, but we don't have the date on that. And we know that they will probably move it at the last minute. That's what they did years ago for his last confirmation. Mm-hmm. So the parents couldn't show up, and they moved it to spring break, which are right around there. So of course people not able to come, but some did. And we have those in recording. If you want those, just ask us for that. Alice Linehan had recorded the testimonies from that day of a special ed teacher, of Alice, of a parent from Houston, a lawyer, and saying, do not confirm this man. Here's why. They gave evidence to back it up, and they confirmed him anyway. And here we are years later with this guy who is still running the TEA, and all the fraud, waste, and abuse being diverted, and our tax dollars being steered towards crony contracts and education technology vendors. And so, okay, anything else before we close, Mary?
Well, yeah, there is. And I'm not sure, because we didn't talk about it before, but in one of when on Social Impact podcast, we discussed Todd Williams at length. One podcast in particular we did, and I just was made aware, and I'm not sure, I think you are, but I was made aware that he's not been in compliance with providing his tax information and his income information, and there's a lot of cronyism around that. And go ahead, I'll let you tell this.
Well, I need to say who he is, because Todd Williams is the founder of the Commit Partnership, and he has a contract with the Texas Education Agency. The TEA pays him. He's from Dallas. He's listed on Marath's application to even be commissioner. So just the backstory on him. But more importantly, he's been appointed to 4 boards and commissions by Governor Abbott, and he is a Democrat. Abbott is supposedly a conservative, so that doesn't jibe. So Todd Williams is now on the permanent school fund, which he's rolled off officially now as the new year has kicked in, but he never submitted his personal financial statements. So those are some issues that I filed a grievance, and the state is not pursuing it, but they are pursuing it on their own. So they didn't have to move forward with my grievance. But they are still, he has had to produce those documents, because you have to know if they have conflicts of interest, if they're going to be serving on a gubernatorial board.
Well, and then a shout out to some parents. We have a lot of super brave parents that are filing grievances.
Mhm.
And Terry Chumchul has been on, she's going to be on Newsmax tomorrow. And yesterday she was on ABC. And right before Christmas, she was on Fox News. And there have been a lot of articles. And she talked about the cost of how they dissuade parents from getting information and try to oppress communication about what's going on in the schools. This is at a local level where they charge $7,000 for a public information request, really basically just to make her go away. But the issue was bullying, and we will talk about that as we go through this whole session, because we are going to get in the weeds and we're going to cover a lot of these really hardcore issues that are causing the systemic failure of our education system and who's responsible for them. And I want to say it's the it's the Republicans, it's the government. They're doing this. We've had a Republican majority for a long time now,
2 decades.
and we
Right.
yeah, and they are doing this, and we have got to hold them accountable and call them out. And I'm going to tell you what I see happening locally is already today was a great preview of what it's going to be like. In the House, you had to buy tickets to sit in the gallery. And so somebody went in and bought the tickets and didn't use them so that the gallery looked empty. And so a lot of the grassroots and the constituents and the taxpayers whose house that is were out in the hallway. They were not allowed to be in there when they voted on Speaker of the House. And it is past time that Texans take back their government. I don't care what form it is or what party it is. Our government is not working for us, and it is time that we take that back. As I say, they don't know what we don't tell them. And I just want to invite people to go to www.familiesengaged.org. You can send us a message there if you have an issue in your school, if you need a parent advocate to help you work through something at your school. If you even need a legal opinion on something, we can often help getting legal opinions or legal ideas. But most of all, to be a voice with us to save the children and to save our state.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it. Anything else, Mary?
No, I think I look forward to doing this again, and we'll see how this goes as we roll these out every week. And sometimes we may have to do them more than once a week because it's going to happen fast and furious with the legislation this session.
Okay. Thanks so much, y'all. Bye.
Thanks, Lynn.